the 7th of May 2024, and remember, the law is highly complex. I'm not your lawyer and I can't be held accountable for what I publish here. This is to help people protest and to win our fight against the government. Now, the thing is, there's an act called the Forcible Entry and Occupation Act of 1971. To forcibly enter the property of another or state property is an offence. By a further offence to remain enforceable, it is a further offence to remain in forcible occupation of the same property by virtue of the Forcible Entry and Occupation Act 1971. It is a good defence to the charge to prove that the accused is the owner of the property. On a forcible entry charge, it is a good defence to prove that the use and employment of the property was not interfered with, etc., etc. So that was brought out where the farmers used to go into the agricultural offices with a heap of sheep and take over the place, or somebody went in and took over the Department of Justice offices or something like that and forcibly did it, ploughed in. So I've made it clear about this thing about migrants taking up residence in homes. I will again recheck to see what exactly a property is in this. Does it apply to the grounds as well? Don't worry about it for now. We're going to go on now to deal with trespass, as I have up here. It's known as trespass to land. There's trespass to the person. Remember, there's no such thing in law as a house. There is a thing in some criminal law as a building, but there's no such thing as a house. If you buy a house, you buy the house and the land it's on. You buy the land, essentially. That's what you become the owner of. If the house happens to be there, well, fair enough, you buy the house as well. So trespass to land is the direct and forcible interference with land or premises of another, entering or remaining on, or the removal of soil or vegetation from such land or premises is a trespass. All that is necessary to establish the tort, it's a tort, that's a special type of crime, trespass, is that the act should be voluntarily. So if somebody pushes you in through a plate glass window and it's not your fault, you're not guilty of trespass. You have to intend to do it. Now, trespass is actionable per se. You don't have to prove you were damaged, or you can sue a person for trespass. As regarding all these migrants, I don't think they'd get very far suing somebody who's just relying on next week's dole handout. Now, the defences to trespass is, it's a licence or consent. The occupier must allow the entrant of a reasonable opportunity to leave. You must be given a reasonable opportunity to leave. You see that? There's no trespass until you are allowed a reasonable opportunity to leave before force to eject them can be used. A shopper in a store or a visitor to a hospital have bare licenses, so they're tolerated coming in there. There's a consent given implied. But a license coupled with an interest, which is one supported by consideration, can only be revoked in accordance with the terms. So if you have some deal with someone that you can walk through the land, you can only, it still gives you the right until it's revoked, okay? Now, an action of a third party exonerates the trespasser. For example, the example of a man sitting on a wall who was pushed onto the land of another was made earlier. The owner of cattle in Maloney versus Stevens in 1945 was not liable when they strayed onto the neighbour's land because the stranger left the gate open on the private right of way. So you have to be deliberately do it, okay? Now, I was at a funeral recently of a man who was burying his mother in sad enough circumstances, although she was quite elderly. He was burying his mother, and he had to leave at 7:30 from the meal and the drink and that afterwards and the chat. He had to leave because he had a man watching the place till 8 o'clock, and he was afraid somebody'd occupy his house when he was away, that no, there was a death, and they'd go in and take over the house. And he said if they get into the house, you can't put them out. Now, if you look at the definition of burglary, it's breaking and entry. You have to break into the house. So what happens if they get in through an open door or use a key or something and get in? Then it's not breaking in. They're just trespassers. Also, what happens if one fella breaks the window and smashes it and walks off, and another fella gets in and opens the door, and another fella comes in and takes over in the house? He says, well, I found it open. I came here and it was open. All that can be done in that case is that the owner of the property coming back can ask the person to leave. And the Gardaí have a choice. The Gardaí may say, right, you have to get out, and they can force the person out. Or they can say it's a civil matter, go to court. And this is more likely in today's environment. You cannot rely if you're a homeowner, on the Gardaí putting the trespasser out. Moreover, the guard will probably ring up the superintendent, and there's a good chance the superintendent will be woke. Now, not all are woke, but there's a good chance. Long ago, the superintendent said, "What? You're Paddy McGurk? Achie, you live down, and what happened?" I came back and there was a crowd of people in my house here. I'll put them out the hell out of there, they're not entitled to be there. And they can put them out. And what can the people do? They're hardly going to sue for being put out of someone else's house. But on the other hand, if that superintendent says, "Oh," and usually a woman, "Oh, I'm a woman, you know, and I'm, oh yes, and I'm a lesbian. Oh, how did these people, oh, they came here from Eritrea. Oh, they broke in. And did they break the lock? Well, no, it was a crowd from Somalia broke the lock. Oh, well, we'll investigate to see who broke the lock. But these Eritreans are now in my house. Well, that's a civil matter. You can take that up with your solicitor. And what do? Are you going to sue the guards? Where would you go in 2024 to get the Gardaí to enforce the law if they don't want to do it? And this is the policy of the Fianna Fáil party, the Fine Gael party, the Sinn Féin party, people before puberty, and all of them. There should be a law, you would think, that if you have no connection with the house at all, you can be ejected there and then. But that is not the law. And technically, if I were to go up to Dublin in the morning and put out my deck chair in the back of somebody's house, they can say, "Get out of there, come on," and try and force me out. And if I resist, they can call the Gardaí and they can put me out. Or what if the Gardaí says it's a civil matter? Sure, take it up with him yourself. What happens if there are a crowd of migrants recently in and claimed that they were sentenced to death somewhere, and I'm gay and I was persecuted in Uganda? I need a place to stay. I just want to stay here in this house. I like this house. We'll stay here. Can you depend on the Garda Síochána to put them out? And I would say you won't. I would say there should be legislation to deal with this situation. Now, you could get the situation where a young lad in a house was reared in the house and he's now 18 and he's a bit of a nuisance and the parents kick him out on the road and he breaks back in. Would you arrest him? Would you put him out? Would you leave it to them to deal with? It gets a bit more delicate like that. Maybe him a little bit, maybe not the full shilling, you wouldn't know. But I'm talking here about total strangers coming into your home. And I can tell you, according to this book here, which I can't be held responsible for, and according to my understanding, there's only one procedure when a trespass happens, and that is you can break or enter, you do damage. There's the Forcible Entry and Occupation Act. If you hold up there and put up a barricade and all that, that would not apply where there's no forcible entry by the person there. Or remember, in the case of people going in to take over a factory, they take it over, they use force and they stay there. In this case, they could just use the ply. So we found it open. The door was open. So somebody from somewhere could go around, break it open back doors, and could then tell people where they can get in. And then you come back, the house is taken over, get out of here. Oh no, we're happy here now. And the next thing is call the guards, and the Gardaí arrives down, and the Gardaí can say, "Well, you're illegally here. If they want you out, you have to go. You're trespassing. That's the law." But it's very civil law. They can't charge them with anything if they didn't do damage. They can ask the people, and the people say, "No, we didn't break in anything. We found it that way." And they then can say, "Well, you either have to get out, or they can move you out on the road, or they might decide you're a hard case. We're woke. We leave you here." What does the homeowner do then? You have to go to court to get a court order, which could take a year. In a crowded court, court order could take 2 years to get. You'll be, "Oh, may I mention this? May I mention that? Can I adjourn to the 24th? Meanwhile, you're out of your house and the other people are settling in big time." That is the law. Anyone who thinks the law is different, please contact me, and I'll write underneath and we'll develop it further. But that is the law. And it used to be that the Garda Síochána would have no hesitation in getting you back your house and putting them out and putting you back in it. But they might not do it now. If you get them out, you can change the locks. And even if you have a house let to somebody and you have no contract, you can change the locks and put them out. All right, if they're living in the house and they're not paying rent, if you get them out, you can recover your house because it is your house. Unless there's a tenancy agreement, and there's a lot of law on that. Don't ask me to go there, but I know several people who have put people out and changed the locks to to stop them grabbing the property. But I'm talking here about the law where people go into your back garden and camp in it, where they go into your home, into your bedroom or whatever else, and don't say anything to you, and particularly if they don't exclude the owner, and you find that you have to share with these people. And I've made the case that that's what migrants should do, and have selected, and we're still working on the selection of members of the Irish Parliament who will be very welcome to see migrants coming into their home. But if they turn on them and try to get them out, then it's up to the Garda Síochána what to do. And a lot of Gardaí might just say, you have a similar civil remedy. If it's your house, you prove it. And then you get houses where they mightn't be properly owned by the owner at all. It could go back maybe to the grandfather who left it to so-and-so and made no will on all of this. And the next thing you have a mess on your hands. Well, I didn't make this law, folks. Your politicians who you're going to vote for again, and in the upcoming election, 50% of the Irish people will still vote for Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, Labour, People Before Puberty and Sinn Féin and the Greens, and this is the law they want there. So they know by having this law and trying to take your house off you that they'll get you to elect them. That's the kind of idiots people who vote for these parties are. So now, folks, I've dealt with the law of trespass, and I put my own view, because I've been interested over the years. I've been interested in it over the years, and there is such a thing as a public nuisance and all of that. I'll not go into it here. There's a lot of law there, but that's the way it is. That's the way it is. You can, if you're on a property, you can be put out, but it's if you can't get them out. Now, what happens if you've got a squad of private security and force them out? Yes, you could come along and get private security and force them out and push them out on the door, if they'll do it for you and you'll pay them handsomely, and then relock your doors and do up all the damage. You could do that, and I think you would win, because the people that's put out have no option. How did you get there? You're a trespasser. So that would be the obvious solution, where you are not fit to put them out yourself. Now, if you're putting them out yourself, you can only use the minimum of force. You can't clobber them over the head with an iron bar. You have to push them out bit by piece, and the more help you have, the better. Now, have I made that quite clear? You can put out people you find trespassing in your home. You can do it if you're able. If you're not able, you can call the guards. If you call the guards and they do it, lovely, you have free security. Even though you pay taxes, if the guards won't do it and leave it to civil matter, which appears to be depending on how woke the superintendent is, if the guards won't do it, then you have to get your own security in to try and get them out, and you have to pay for all that. Could be 2,000, 3,000 euros. That's the way the law is. That's the way it is. I didn't make it. That's that. Technically, if there's a break-in and that's a burglary, when you go in with intention to commit a crime, then the guards supposedly should investigate that. That's a criminal act. But this peaceable taking over of your house and your garden is not a criminal act at all. That's the law. Now, have I given you that law? I can't be held accountable for it, because I have no idea who's going to prosecute this. You could get some stupid lawyer, or you could get a lawyer who's woke himself and maybe take your house off you. And I don't want to be too scary about it, but that's what it says in this. You can buy the book yourself. Irish Principles of Irish Law by Brian Doolan. And if Brian Doolan thinks I have it wrong, well, all right, get on to me. But I've been studying this for years, and I'm trying to give you the law and why I recommend the migrants, this unusual situation, go to the people who love them and let them put up with them and let them keep them. Folks, thumbs up or a thumbs down, that'll probably do me. My voice is getting a bit sore now. I have a bit of a cold on me. We'll see you back for something else. Thank you.